Hi, hey, hello, welcome back to Horrible Book Club. If you're new here, I read bad books and go through them so you don't have to. And this week I read the Vicious Lost Boys series. There are 4 books in this series. I read all of them this week. My mental health has never been worse. So buckle up, strap in, because we're going through the first 2 books. That's right, you're getting a 2-in-1. General disclaimer, I will be roasting the ever-loving hell out of these books. If that's not something you're interested in seeing, you can go watch something else. But if you're like me and you love consuming horrible content, then hang out for a while. If you've ever been on BookTok, a horrible, horrible place, then you have probably heard of at least the first book in this series, which is called The Never King. This series is a dark romance retelling of Peter Pan, and by dark romance, I do just mean bad smut with lightly sprinkled plot as a treat. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with gratuitous smut, but this is not advertised as gratuitous smut, and the smut is not written well. Let's just get into it. The Never King is a reimagining of Peter and Wendy, though all characters have been aged up and are 18 and over. Okay. This is not a children's book, and the characters are not children. Some of the content in the story may be triggering to some readers. The trigger warnings include mental illness, smoking, we'll get back into that one, graphic, rough sex, sex in public, group sex, dubious consent, graphic violence, graphic language, captive/captivity, degradation, submission, bondage/ropes, spanking, blood play, choking, consensual non-consent, talk of sexual assault. Already off the bat giving off haunting Adeline vibes, which splendid. Now, don't hate me. When I was a kid, I never really consumed anything Peter Pan, so I don't have the angle that most people have, which is, oh my god, these books ruined my childhood. But I do have the angle of, oh my god, these books ruined my adulthood. The first chapter in the first book is from the POV of Winnie Darling, not Wendy, Winnie. Almost every single chapter in these books are from a different POV, which I hate so much, but I will try my best to make it make sense. Chapter 1, Winnie. Winnie is having sex in a car. That is how the book opens. And it's also bad sex. So good, baby. You're so good at sex. And I am so good at lying. Girl, today is Winnie's 18th birthday, and every single darling woman that has come before her has disappeared on their 18th birthday. Oh boy, freshly 18. There can't be anything problematic with that. Also, you would think at some point one of them would have had the idea to, I don't know, stop having fucking children. Some are gone a day, others a week or a month, but they always return broken with varying degrees of sanity intact. When Winnie returns home, her mom is muttering about pirates and lost boys and fairies and him. She won't speak his name when she's awake, but at night, when she dreams, sometimes she'll wake up screaming it, Peter Pan. Winnie's mom has been diagnosed with schizophrenia, as was her mom, as was her mom, as was her mom, and so on and so forth. And she has been warning Winnie her entire life that she's going to be kidnapped by Peter Pan when she turns 18. Winnie just thinks that her mom and every other woman in their family goes crazy when they turn 18 because that's how schizophrenia should be talked about. Her mom makes her go into her protection room. There's been a parade of so-called witches and shamans and voodoo priests that come into our lives and through our houses, selling my mom the secrets of protection from him. So her room has like symbols on the wall that were drawn in Winnie's blood. Her mom has forced her to be cut and have symbols carved into her skin, and yikes, Winnie just fully believes it's only due to the mental illness and that everything she's saying is fake. Until she hears the floorboard creaking in the house in the middle of the night. The lock thumps open as if by magic and a boot pushes in the door. The door is open and he fills up its void. There's a distant sound of a lighter being clicked open and then the rough spin of metal. The flame catches, sending light over his face as he burns a cigarette. Hey, future me editing the video, can you start a counter for every time they mention someone lighting a cigarette in this book? Thanks. He's tall, broad-shouldered, and wearing a long coat with a stiff collar that stands up around his sharp jaw. Even though his body is hidden beneath the coat, I can tell he's corded with muscle by the mere suggestion of his biceps. Winnie, bestie, not the thing to be thinking about right now. When he pulls the cigarette away from his mouth, I can't help but trace the veins that snake over his knuckles with a quick sweep of my eyes. Girl, what the fuck are you talking about? Please, Mom says. Says? Says? Not begs? Not pleads? Every dialogue line in this book is just says. He takes a long hit from the cigarette, the embers burning brightly. So Peter Pan grabs Winnie and he tells her, we can either do this the hard way or the easy way. And Winnie says, the easy way, obviously, because Winnie is just so quirky and she is not like other girls. She is not horrified of being kidnapped by a mythical man. She's too quirky for that. First lesson, there is no easy way. Then why the never mind. Chapter 2, Peter Pan. Peter Pan is carrying Winnie back to Neverland. He snaps his fingers and she passes out because magic. I have so little left to spare. This one has to be the one. I don't know what will happen if she isn't. I am this island. It won't survive without me. Ooh, vague and mysterious. So in Neverland, Pan is like the king and he has his close circle of friends. There's Cass and Bash, who are twins and completely indistinguishable from each other. Not to the other characters in the book. The characters in the book have no problem telling which is which. I could not tell which is which because they're written exactly the same. But one has long hair and one is good at cooking. There's also Vane, who is unironically called the Dark One because he's broody and mysterious. The twins follow me down the hall to the spare room, but Vane doesn't come. Vane is only interested in making darling girls cry. Okay, so they handcuff Winnie to her bed and Peter Pan lights a cigarette. Don't fuck the darling, I say just to make sure he hears me. It's the only rule we have. We don't fuck the darlings because darlings is what got us into this mess. We don't fuck darlings, we just break them. I would bet my entire life savings that within the first half of this book, they're all going to stick their dick inside of a darling. Chapter 3, Winnie. I'm just going to call her Darling because that's all she is referred to as in this book. So when Darling wakes up, someone is watching her. No, not a boy exactly. He has the youth of a boy, but the presence of a man. I'm uncomfortable. What the f does that mean? I lurch upright only to find I'm chained to a wall. That's kinky. That is definitely one of the thoughts you can think in this situation because she's just so quirky and horny. She's not like other girls. She likes to but she's actually a young traumatized girl who deals with her trauma in the unhealthy way of being super promiscuous, but it's not written like that, so we're just going to pretend that it's not like that because it's only written like she's special because she's horny. Someone else comes into the room and Darling is like, oh my god, they're replicas of each other, so Cass and Bash. They look like trouble. They feel like the wrong kind of temptation, like a pretty tree frog that can kill you with a touch. The amount of horrible metaphors in this book, just you wait. We're the nice ones, Bash says. They could take me easily in any way they wanted. Fighting them would be like fighting the ocean, pointless and futile. But why would I? They look like they'd be a wild ride. Sure, whatever you say. And then someone else walks into the room. When he darkens the doorway, the air gets lodged in my throat. This one isn't as muscular as the twins, but there's something distinctly more sinister about him. The scar, the eyes. 3 long, jagged scars cut his face in half diagonally from one temple to his jaw. One eye is bright violet, the other pure black. What is it with the last 2 books I've read having people with purple eyes in them? He comes over to Bash and steals the last of his cigarette. She start crying yet? Cass frowns. Something tells me this one will be harder to break. They all break eventually, the mean one says, eyeing me with his unsettling eyes. So the scary one, Vane, uses his magic power to make Darling feel fear. And he's like, I told you they all break because he's so mean and dark and broody. Chapter 4, Bash. The twins take Darling to the kitchen and make her some food. I don't like to watch a darling cry, but I love to watch them bleed. Sir, this is a Wendy's. Also, this is never mentioned again in the book. Like, I honestly think the author forgot which twin she made say that, but neither of them make her bleed in this entire series. Not one of the 4 books. Not a one. The twins are using their twin telepathy to tell each other that something is different about this one because Winnie's so quirky and different. Pan has always had one rule about the darlings. They're off limits. We have plenty on the island to keep us busy without fucking around with a darling. We're the Lost Boys, and there's plenty of lost looking to be found. I want to die. This is page 34, and I just had to read the words lost. Anyway, they make Darling some pancakes, some cloudberry pancakes, and when she takes the first bite, she like moans because it tastes good. And all of them immediately get fully bricked up. What happened to all of the lost that you have been taking? Why are you hard? Cass leans into her, spreads his arms over the back of her stool, and steals the fork from her hand. I'm envious of his proximity to her. What does she smell like? I ask him. Like secrets and forbidden fruit. Jesus Christ. A, what does that mean? And two, what the does a secret smell like? You know what? Honestly, my bad. My bad for expecting a published book to have good writing. Chapter 5, Winnie. Winnie gets a free moment with a girl on the island named Cherry. All of the boys hate Cherry, but they all have sex with her anyway. Winnie tries to get information from Cherry, but she fails. Chapter 6, Peter Pan. Beyond my tomb, I can feel the sun sinking toward the horizon line, the shadows growing long. Peter Pan has to sleep in a tomb since he lost his shadow. He cannot go out in the daylight. So, like, almost like a vampire, but way less cool and way less hot. 2 floors above me, I hear Bash tell the darling to sit. She sits. If she's a if she's a good girl, she'll do if she's a good girl, she'll always do what we tell her. Sir, you kidnapped her less than 24 hours ago. What are you talking about? I can't see the darling yet, but I can feel her. We are a house of cold, hard edges. She's already made it feel warmer, and I've barely known soft or warm in my life. You kidnapped her less than 24 hours ago. So he goes to like the living room of the treehouse that they live in. I take a hit from my cigarette, let the smoke leak out before sucking it back in with a deep inhale. The chemicals. He tells Darling to get up and for her and Vane to follow him, and he takes them all to the beach. She looks down the shoreline, south, then north. My territory is the entire south end of the island, from the point of Silver Cove to the craggy outline of Marooner's Rock. Hook's territory is the other side on the north end of the island, with Tilly's territory like a pie wedged between us. You can swim for miles in any direction and you'll get nowhere, especially not home. So Darling tells them that she wants to go home, and Vane loses his temper. In the distraction of Vane losing his Darling takes off running. Chapter 7, Winnie. Pan catches her like immediately. Inside, I'm tossed unceremoniously on the couch with my skirt bunched around my waist. The twins take notice. I take my time fixing it. Probably not the thing to do right now, actually. Probably not a good idea, but you do you. Bash pulls out another cigarette and lights it, takes a drag. Then he gets up and crosses the room and hands it to Pan. Peter Pan ends up telling Darling that one of the darlings from a long time ago took something from him and she's going to help him find it. He takes another hit, the smoke ribbons around his face. Do you understand me, darling? I swallow the lump wedged in my throat. Yes. Good girl. Put her back in her room. I gagged. So the twins take her back to her room, and one of them says, "For your first day in Neverland, you did all right, darling." I'm chained to a bed. It's not like I had a choice in any of this. Cass's jaw flexes. We always have a choice. Yeah, okay, buckaroo. Can't wait to see that. Oh, the whole series is just filled with misogyny. Cool. Chapter 8, Winnie. I sit up, clear my throat, and call out for Cass. Within minutes, his footsteps are outside my bedroom door, and my heart leaps into my throat. I'm going to fuck a lost boy. Yeah, we know. You kind of made that pretty clear. Chapter 9, Cass. If the darling calls for me, I come. He finds Winnie crying on her bed, and she's like, I'm scared. And he hugs her and starts comforting her. She puts her hand on my thigh and sinks closer. My takes notice. Goodbye? Darling, I say, my voice going husky and dark. Darling! I should go. Yes, you should. Please go. Cass ends up casting an illusion onto the ceiling to make her feel better, and she's like, what are you? In your world, I tell her, I believe you might have called us fairies. So Darling laughs and she like goes to start saying, I don't believe in fairies, but he slaps his hand over her mouth. Darling, if you say it, I'm dead. If you say those words, a fairy dies. It's as simple as that. So promise me you won't say it. I would have said I don't believe in fairies so fast. Darling ends up trying to touch his dick again, and then he leaves. Chapter 10, Winnie. My bedroom door bangs open. A dark figure stalks in, grabs my chin, and yanks me back. I lose my footing and stumble. Bash catches me and wraps a hand around my throat. What did you say to him, darling? And then Darling realizes, duh, I was trying to fuck the wrong one. I let out a breathy little moan and Bash clenches his teeth together. At what? Nothing happened. What are you moaning at? So Bash, loses control and they start having sex. I'm a lost boy. I have a plan. I'm going to get out of here. And then I feel Peter Pan before I see him. I see the flick of a lighter first, burning the end of a cigarette in his mouth. Pan tells them not to stop, so they just start getting in front of him. I like it more than I should. I might have f***ed half the basketball team, but never at once. Girl, this is the fastest case of Stockholm Syndrome I have ever seen in my life. And then right before she crosses the finish line, a strong arm wraps around my waist and yanks me off of Bash, stealing the pleasure and the heat. Pan tells Bash to leave. You don't know what the f you're getting yourself into. I pull my panties aside and slide my fingers down my wet. Nope. She starts finger blasting herself in front of Peter Pan. And then he ends up helping. I'm being finger by a myth. Dear Lord, we don't darlings, he tells me, so stop around or you will regret it. And then he leaves me soaking wet and dirty in the chair. Good, stop it. Chapter 11, Peter Pan. I'm so fucking hard and pissed off I could split the darling in two. I go outside to the balcony and light another cigarette. Vane ends up finding Peter Pan and he's like, did you fuck the darling? Because he can smell her on him. Chapter 12, Winnie. Sherry brings her a tray of food the next morning and tells her that she's really pretty. I know, I say, it's best you know what your assets are. Good Lord. So Winnie's like, oh my god, this girl is desperate for a friend. I need to try to get information out of her by being nice. And Sherry just starts spilling every single fucking bean that she can hold in her dumb little head. And Darling pieces together that Peter Pan thinks that a darling stole his shadow. Chapter 13, Bash. Bash and Cass are talking about how Tilly, the fairy queen, is coming tomorrow. Tilly is also Cass and Bash's sister. They were banished from the Fae Kingdom for killing their father. I wonder if our dear sister is really doing what she claims to be doing with the darlings. Chapter 14, Brownie? The brownie has no name. He is older than most on the island, but not older than Peter Pan. The brownie remembers when Pan was king, and he doesn't wish to return to what Neverland was when it was under his rule. They had a plan. The brownie set one in motion very long ago with Tinkerbell, stars rest her soul. So the brownie is some sort of fae that serves the queen, who used to be Tinkerbell but is now Tilly. So the brownie goes and tells Tilly that Peter Pan is weak and now is the time to take power. Chapter 15, Winnie. Cass and Bash bring Winnie to a bonfire to see if it'll make her feel better. The boy beside me is short with red hair and he smells like cigarettes and mischief. What? He's not Bash or Cass, and he's certainly no Pan, but he'll do just fine. I lean into him and kiss him. Chapter 16, Peter Pan. Vane goes to wake Pan up when the sun has gone down and tells him what's going on out at the bonfire. The whole way up, his voice is singing a lilt behind me. 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3. Better watch out. Peter Pan is going to murder thee. What are you talking about? I grab the back of the boy's chair and punch at his chest. I go straight through bone, claw my fingers around his heart, and tear it out. Seems a little dramatic to me, but pop off, King. She needs to know there are no white knights here, just monsters, and I'm the worst one. Be so fucking for real right now. Huh? Chapter 17, Winnie. Pan drags Winnie back to the house and throws her into a chair. What are you doing? What is your plan? Every lost boy on the island just to provoke me? Yes, they call me Winnie Whore, you know. Boys is what I do best. God. If you want to act like a whore, he says as he leans over me, then I'll treat you like a whore. Hey, editing me, can we get a flashback to like 2 minutes ago when I said they were gonna fuck her almost immediately? So Pan does the deed with her in front of Vane, Cass, and Bash. And then after Pan frosts her strudel, Bash is like, "Can I have a turn?" And then Cass comes over too. Bash's twin brother. Fuck yeah, Bash says as he pushes into me. Wrap those pretty little lips around my brother's. What? You ready to fill her up, brother?
Brother, but the thing is, brother.
What? So Pan, Cass, and Bash all have their way with Winnie Whore, and then Vane walks up. I part my lips, Vane gets in close and spits in my mouth. That's all you'll get from me. You just know that he's gonna love her the most out of all of them because he acts like he doesn't want to fuck her right away. Darling, Pan says, don't ever provoke me again. There's still blood on his hand and it finally registers that he killed someone, then fucked me. What is happening? That's what I've been saying, babes. What is happening? Chapter 18, 19, and 20, nothing happens. Chapter 21, Winnie. Cass and Bash decide that they need to teach Darling how to gut a fish. Insert the blade here. He points the tip just below the fish's mouth. Then run it back to the anal fin. I blanch at the mention of anal. Why does everything these boys do have to be sexual? What the fuck are you talking about? That's what it's called. That's just what it's called. What? Shut the fuck up. Chapter 22, they just continue gutting a fish. Chapter 23, Winnie. Winnie finds Vane in the library and she still wants him to want her so she can validate herself. So I get up out of the chair, but instead of walking out the door, I cross the distance between me and Vane and climb into his lap. He growls, but his hips shift, lining himself up at my center. He growls? He's not hard yet, and it pisses me off. So I do the only thing a girl can do in this scenario. I pull my sweater and my t-shirt off. I'm not wearing a bra, so my breasts hit the air and my nipples immediately shrink to dark beads. Huh? Vane growls again, and now he's hard. Listen to me very carefully, darling. You do not want to fuck with me. I just want to be fucked by you. He sits up and he he sits up and slaps my tit. Stop it. What? Chapter 24, Peter Pan. When I come up from the tomb, I find the darling in the library. She's a tempting sight, like an exotic wild bird that I want to capture and cage so only I can hear her sing. What? So Darling is sitting in the library reading the book Frankenstein. She's reading a book about monsters and a den of monsters. How fucking poetic. Thank you for spelling that out for me. I wouldn't have realized what the fucking point of that was otherwise. Pan starts telling Darling to prepare for tonight because a Darling stole his shadow in the past and she's going to help him get it back. I can't speak her name because I've forgotten it. Memories of your ancestors can be inherited, buried in blood. Okay. So why is it only Darling girls that you kidnap? Would a Darling boy not work? They have the same bloodline. Or is it just that you're a horny little fuck and you like having women around? Chapter 25, Winnie. Bash comes into her room and tells her that their sister Tilly is the one that is going to get inside of her head to reveal the hidden ancestral memory from her whatever the fuck of I don't know. You're going to let our dear sister get into your head and you're going to help us find Peter Pan's shadow, okay? I believe that. I believe you're different from every single other darling that's come before you. We got to fuck you. Cool, 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 cool. She's quirky and different because she likes having sex. We get it. Thank you. So Tilly shows up and she starts going into Darling's mind and it's just like blinding pain. Chapter 26. Bash. There's a single moment where I consider stopping Tilly. Damn the consequences. I nearly do it too, but someone else beats me to it. Not my brother, not Pan, but Vane. Oh my god, who would have guessed it? The dark, broody one is going to love her the most. Oh my god. Chapter 27, Winnie. Vane ends up just carrying Winnie back to his room. Where I come from, little girls like you are broken every day for no reason other than to watch them crack, and I'm fucking sick of it. Aren't you the one who was like, is she crying yet? They all break eventually. Wasn't that you? Okay, Mr. Edgelord, shut the fuck up. Chapter 28, Winnie. Winnie falls asleep and has a dream about her great grandmother, Wendy. She sees Wendy putting a box with Pan's shadow into a trunk that is still in the Darling family, so back at her mom's house. So you're telling me you have kidnapped generations of girls from this family and you've never searched their house? You've never gone through their belongings? Okay. Winnie wakes up and goes to Pan and immediately tells him that she knows where his shadow is. Pan tells her that it may have been a Darling that stole his shadow, but Tinkerbell was the mastermind behind everything. Because Tinkerbell was in love with Peter Pan, and Peter Pan was in love with the original Darling. Didn't you just say you didn't even remember her name? Didn't you just say you didn't know her name? So Tinkerbell made the Darling help him steal his shadow, and then when she put the shadow in the chest, Tinkerbell killed the original Darling, but the original Darling's sister was watching from the closet, so they've been stealing that Darling's children. Okay. Chapter 29, Peter Pan. They all go to a cliff and they have to jump off of it to get to like the mortal realm since Peter Pan can't fly anymore, and that's that entire chapter. Chapter 30, Winnie. They get to the Darling's house, and remember that weird chapter a while ago about like the brownie? The brownie is there with a bunch of lesser brownies. I don't know how the Fae courtship works. A bunch of brownies are there. I always knew it was here, the brownie says. Then why didn't you just take it? Why didn't you take it? What the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean you knew it was there? So the boys start killing all the brownies, and Winnie finds the secret box and the secret compartment in the chest. Chapter 31, Peter Pan. You're home now. Thank you for helping me. Take me back with you. You'll be safer here. Safe is not what I want. Fine, you can come back with me. She smiles triumphantly up at me. Don't get cocky. I won't. I'll just get. What the fuck are you talking about? Chapter 32, Winnie. Her poor, traumatized mother just tells her to go back to Neverland and to be happy, and that she's sure that the magical lagoon has missed her. Sure. Peter Pan takes my hand and leads me off into the night, the little box containing his shadow tucked beneath his arm. Okay, so he can't fly still because he hasn't taken the shadow out of the box yet. So how the fuck are they going to get back to Neverland? They had to jump off a cliff in Neverland to get back to the mortal realm. How do they get back there? They never say. And I want to know. I want to know these things. Epilogue, Peter Pan. I push open the lid and two shadows leap out. That, my friends, is the end of the first book. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. You are a trooper. If you need to take a break, please do so. Go get some water, go get some snacks. I'll still be here. We're moving right along. The next book in this series is called The Dark One. The Dark One picks up right where the last book left off. And I know what you're thinking. Wow, the first book was fucking horrible. So surely the author has taken some criticism and made the second book better, right? No, incorrect. It gets worse. Chapter 1 of The Dark One is from the POV of Peter Pan. Two shadows leap from the box. Vane and Pan go after Pan's shadow, which is the life shadow. The twins go after the death shadow. Vane and Pan chase his shadow all the way to Hook's territory, but they can't catch it. Chapter 2, Cass. The death shadow slashes Bash's throat. So Cass screams for Winnie because obviously the 18-year-old human girl is going to be able to help in this situation. Chapter 3, Winnie. Winnie yells, I believe in fairies at Bash over and over and over and over again until he heals. Because she's like, well, surely if you yell, I don't believe in fairies, and they die, then if you yell, I do believe in fairies, then they'll heal. And it worked. Pan gets back and starts smashing things because his shadow got away from him, like a stable man that's thousands of years old and has had thousands of years to regulate his emotions. Chapter 4, Bash. I know it seems like I'm flying through these chapters, but they really do just go by that quickly. Chapter 4 starts on page 16 of this book. Like, there's just nothing in them. Cass makes Winnie go to her room until Pan calms down, which takes about an hour. Some of the Lost Boys have returned from town with Lost Puppy in tow. Can we stop? Can we stop now? Can I stop? Chapter 5, Winnie. Beyond the room, I hear girls laughing, and a dark thing curls in my belly. She walks out and sees a girl sitting in Pan's lap. Pan and I lock eyes. It's now or never. I dart for the stairs. Pan chases her. There's a fire crackling in the bonfire pit. Over a dozen Lost Boys gathered around. I pick the first one I see, leap into his arms, wrap my legs around his waist, and mash my lips against his. Pan comes up, rips her off of him, and takes her back to the house. When he sits in the chair next to me, he scowls and spreads out his long legs. He puts a cigarette between his lips and opens a lighter with the snap of his fingers. Darling's just like, well, if I can't have anyone else except for you guys, then I don't want you guys to have anyone else either. We are four very hungry men. Do you really think you're capable of keeping up with our appetites? Show me you can be our little darling whore. Ew, stop it, please. Pan tells her to let the twins fuck her. After Bash is done, he says, your turn, brother.
Brother,
I am concerned about you tonight, my friend.
even my family said, brother.
Chapter 6, Winnie. Guess what? It's still the same sex scene. Why is this a new chapter? After Cass is done with her, it's Pan's turn, so she gets up and starts walking towards him. Did I tell you to get off your knees? You'll crawl to me. When Pan is done, I sit up and find Vane's mismatched eyes squarely on me. He gives me a barely perceptible shake of his head, but I'm not easily cowed. But before I know what's happening, I'm flown across the room and thrown up against the wall, Vane's hand wrapped around my throat. I mean, he said no. Chapter 7, Winnie. Pan and Vane start fighting because Pan is trying to get Vane off of Winnie, and Winnie is afraid that Vane is going to kill Pan, so she says, you can have me in any way you need me, to Vane. I back into the wall and step on a shard of glass with my bare foot and hiss at the bite of pain. Vane's gaze wanders to the floor, to the footprint I've left in blood. Vane's eyes return to normal. So Vane saw her in pain, and he went back to normal, but wouldn't he have seen her in pain when he was throwing her against the wall and choking her? What? Chapter 8, Peter Pan. Vane leaves, and Pan, Bash, and Cass start tending to Darling's wounds. One of the twins gives her an illusion, and Pan stitches up her foot. Keep the illusions going for a while. Let her rest. Wherever she is, she's far gone from us in the loft. My cock thickens as my mind conjures images of the twins fucking her mouth. What are you talking about? What? You just stitched her foot closed. What? Oh my god. Pan goes to find Vane walking on the beach. Smoke curls over his shoulders as he takes a hit from a cigarette. They start talking about whether or not Vane can control his shadow, and Vane says, right now I can feel it swimming under the surface, like the spirits of the lagoon, but unlike them, mine want to watch little girls cry while it buries its cock in their wet cum. Little girls? Little girls cry? What? Pan, out of nowhere, just completely deviating from the conversation for no reason, tells Vane that he needs some favors. The first favor he needs is to go to Hook's territory to search the land, and the second favor is to call Vane's brother to come, which Vane describes as kicking the hornet's nest, so we can only assume that his brother is worse than he is. Vane tells him that they have no incentive to get his brother to come help them, so Pan tells him that Wendy Darling never went home. Pan left Wendy Darling in Everland. How did the bloodline, what, because wasn't Wendy the first one who was home when Tinkerbell killed her? And what, so how, if she never went home, and if she wasn't the first one, if there was a second Wendy, then how did the bloodline, what? I forgot to order plot with my poorly written smut. Chapter 9, Winnie. Darling wakes up in a hammock with Bash and Cass, and Sherry shows up, and then Vane shows up. Vane tells Sherry that he has to go talk to her brother, and he wants her to come with him. Darling asks who her brother is. Hook, she tells me with a bite to her words. Captain James Hook.
Bond. James Bond.
Chapter 10, Sherry. Oh, good. We're just giving everyone POVs now. Awesome. When my brother gave me to Pan and the Lost Boys, I sobbed for days in the tiny room where they stuck me. It's like I've always been here in Pan's house, the only girl amongst the Lost Boys. What happened to the lost pussy? I'm confused. Well, until Winnie. I don't hate this darling like I thought I would, but I don't like her either. All the boys are tripping over themselves to have her. I'm not sure why. Her boobs aren't as big as mine, and she's rail thin. Cherry, bestie, shut the fuck up. Also, the amount of times in the series where someone describes Darling as rail thin is fucking concerning. She's malnourished. It's especially concerning when it's one of the boys saying it because it's almost always followed up by them saying how sexy she is and how much they want to have sex with her. Good to know you like them freshly 18, traumatized, and malnourished. Super cool. So Vane and Sherry are walking to Captain Hook's territory. Do you like her? He scowls at me and I shiver beneath his glimmering black eye. Sherry, shut the fuck up. Okay, that one was kind of funny. I agree. Sherry, shut the fuck up. Chapter 11, Captain James Hook. Captain Hook has gotten a letter from the Queen Tilly asking if he wants to unite with her to take down Peter Pan, and she closes the letter with, "And I can help you defend yourself against the crocodile should he return to the island." Captain Hook hates the crocodile more than he hates Peter Pan, which, by the way, the crocodile in this series is a living human man. Well, not human man, a living humanoid man, not an actual crocodile. Sometimes when I lie in bed, I can see him in my mind's eye, the hard lines of his body, the sharp teeth. The crocodile is the one that removed Captain Hook's hand. Hook is also afraid of clocks, which I know that's canon in like the original Peter Pan story, but it's never explained why. He's just afraid of clocks. Smee comes in and tells Hook that Sherry is here with the Dark One. I don't want to seek Sherry. I certainly don't want to seek Sherry with the Dark One. I've heard stories. Sometimes I regret handing her over. Sometimes I have to remind myself that she had little use for me and still doesn't. Aww. Normal big brother bonding activities. There are bruises peppering my sister's skin, and the sight of it makes me ill. What have they done to you? Yeah, dude. You handed her over to your enemies that get bricked up when the breeze blows wrong. What the fuck did you think was gonna happen? So Vane tells Hook that they need to search his territory to find a lost boy, and Hook asks what he will get in return for this. So Vane tells him that they'll return his sister. Hook agrees to let them search his land in 2 nights' time, and then they will return Cherry to him in 3 nights' time, and then they both just leave. But Hook has some semblance of a brain up rattling around up there, so he's like, they want to search my land to find the shadow, so he tells his pirates to go search for it so he can find it first. Chapter 12, Winnie. Darling finds Pan looking for a tether to draw his shadow in. Did I do something wrong? Tell me how I should be around Vane. Girl, I think he has more pressing issues than your daddy issues. What? I've always prided myself on being able to figure people out, but Vane is the exception, and it's frustrating me beyond reason. AKA, she knows that men like titties. What the oh my god. It makes so much sense now. Of course, someone like Vane hates when someone tries too hard, and I've been throwing myself at him. No fucking shit. What? So Pan finds some seashell that'll work as the tether, and he tells Darling that her mom was the one that found it in the lagoon, and that he had brought her to the lagoon because she was worried about the baby in her womb, which was her. Who fucking cares? Chapter 13, Peter Pan. Come to bed with me, my little darling horse, so I can shove my no. Super odd thing to say after a conversation about her mother. Chapter 14, Winnie. They take a bath together in the tomb. The water is warm and smells like Pan, like summer nights and dark secrets. What the fuck does a secret smell like, and why do you keep saying it? Okay. They end up doing the deed in the bathtub, and Winnie says he picks up the pace. He picks up the pace, f***ing my clit. He does fucking what now? He does what? That's not how this works. Please stop. Please. Please stop. Please. Chapter 15, Cass. Cass and Bash go to visit their sister, the Queen, and tell her that they want their wings back. She tells them that she will only give them their wings back if they help her kill Peter Pan and take the power. Cass and Bash tell her that the reason that they killed their father, which is what got them banished from the Fae royalty, whatever, is because their father was going to have Tilly auctioned off, and Tilly does not give a single fuck. Tilly tells them that she has called in the crocodile to help her take care of Hook and Pan, and she tells them to pick a side and that it better be hers. And this whole side plot is so fucking boring. The main plot is held together with a singular string of cum. Why did you write multiple different subplots? Chapter 16, Winnie. Her and Pan are sleeping in the tomb and Vane comes in. And Pan is like, you could join us. You know me, Pan, Vane says. I don't waste my time with easy pussy. Damn! If you hate easy pussy, then why f Sherry? Not missing a beat, he says, because she's not you. Damn! Get absolutely fucked, or not fucked, I guess. Darling fucks off and goes to the kitchen, where she finds the twin, who both seem like they're in a bad mood. Are you alright? I ask and cup his balls through his shorts. Oh my god. Chapter 17, Bash. Are we gonna let her get away with that? I ask my brother. I'm an experienced nodder. When did this become an Omegaverse book? And I have both arms tied to the tree in less than 30 seconds. Oh, okay. That's what he meant. I get it now. Chapter 18, Winnie. Strung up in the Never tree, I can't help but feel like a bug that accidentally flew too close to a spider web. What do you think, brother?
Brother!
Bash says as he disappears from my line of sight. Should we give her a safe word? Yeah, dude. Probably. That's what. Yeah. Don't don't take the consent out of your consensual consent. The fuck. You hear how wet she is, brother?
Brother! But the thing is, brother!
Chapter 19, Cass. So Cass is in Darling's vagine, and Bash is going to go into her chocolate starfish. Bash spits on his hand and grips his dick. He guides himself into her ass and she moans loudly, eyes squeezed shut. F***ing tight, brother.
Brother!
I don't know if she's been fucked in the ass before, but there will be plenty more of it after today. That is not how anal works. That's not how it works. You cannot hawk Tua yourself and then just slide it right in. That's not how this works. Please fucking stop. Chapter 20, Winnie. The twins fuck me so hard my teeth clack together. I hope there's a dentist on Neverland. Pan and Vane show up after they have all finished, and Vane is pissed off because he had told Darling to go get some magical salve to put on the bruise on her neck that she got from him throwing her into a wall. And then all of the boys start arguing about how each one of them treated her worse and fucking whatever. And Winnie's like, guys, stop. You're all assholes, all right? You're my assholes. I chose those things. I chose all of you, even you, Vane. So stop treating me like I'm a fragile toy. I'm a china cup that has been broken so many times that I'm never sure if I'm a cup or just separate pieces held together by glue and sheer determination, molded into the shape of a cup. Winnie, shut the fuck up. What are you talking about? Vane drops into one of the chairs and puts a cigarette in his mouth. The twins end up telling Pan and Vane that Tilly has called the crocodile to help her, which is Vane's brother.
Brother!
Chapter 21, Peter Pan. Vane tells Darling that his brother is going to have a bone to pick with Peter Pan after he finds out the secret. So they all tell her that Wendy was left on Everland and that the crocodile was in love with Wendy, but Captain Hook was also in love with Wendy, and that's why the crocodile cut off Captain Hook's hand. No one cares. No one cares. Please shut the fuck up. Chapter 22, Sherry. Pan is the only one of the house I haven't slept with. He's no Vane, but I wouldn't have turned him down if he ordered me to my knees. Now Winnie has them, all of them, all to herself. How many men can one girl have? Cherry, bestie, you've also fucked almost every single one of them. Shut the fuck up. Cherry ends up finding the death shadow in her room, and she thinks that if she goes and tells Vane about it, that he will love her. Chapter 23, Captain Hook. Smee tells Hook that Tilly has summoned the crocodile. He's cut from granite, hair dark like nightmares, eyes green like a mamba snake, just as quick to bite, too. In Chapter 24, Winnie. Darling goes to the lagoon and finds Vane floating in the middle of it. Vane floats in the center of the lagoon, his cock just cresting the water, and I can't take my eyes off of him. I'm ogling him. He is letting me. Out of the four, he's the biggest by far. Then Vane tells her that he does want to fuck her and that he doesn't hate her. So she's like, why don't you fuck me? And he says, the bruises on your neck would be the least of your worries. And she says, I don't care. He says, you'll get no safe word from me. Stop it. Please stop. Now. Fine, I understand. And then he starts to fuck her, and then the pain catches her off guard. Clearly, someone did not understand. So he stops himself and he tells her to get out of the water slowly. And Darling has magically figured it out. I have to be vulnerable, and maybe that terrifies me most of all. Show him all of my cracks and let him make his own in my skin. I have endured. I turn around and run. Chapter 25, Winnie. He snatches me around the waist and slams me against the trunk of a tree. His cock finds the pocket between my thighs. The pocket? So Vane starts doing literally exactly what he warned her he would do. So she breaks off a tree branch and like cuts herself with it, and he snaps out of it. So she's like, now fuck me, now that the shadow is not consuming you. Fucking whatever. And then they finish, and he's like, if I ever lose control, promise me you'll knee me in the balls or stab me in the face. Chapter 26, Cherry. I can't catch my breath. I'm crying so hard. Vane gave in to her. He gave in to her. Vane is supposed to be mine, and Winnie was supposed to go back to her world and stay there. Maybe the universe gave me the shadow for a reason. Maybe I'm supposed to use it after all. Why are the only two female characters in this book fucking insufferable? Like, don't get me wrong, the men are too, but holy shit. Chapter 27 is literally just 3 pages where nothing happens. Chapter 28, Winnie. Vane and Darling go back to the treehouse, and Vane takes her into his room, and he's like, she's mine tonight. Darling starts like crying and being like, I'm afraid you're gonna leave me. And he's like, get the in the bed. And then he cuddles her and reassures her. Chapter 29, Hook. One of the pirates has found Pan's shadow, so they get it into like a chest immediately, which why was it so difficult for Vane and Pan to catch it if it was so easy for the human pirates to catch it? Like, Pan has had a shadow and it's his shadow specifically, and Vane actively has a shadow. Okay. Chapter 30, Winnie. They're all waiting for the sun to go down so they can go to Hook's territory and try to find Pan's shadow. Vane is sitting on the couch, and Winnie's head is in his lap, and Bash's head is in Winnie's lap. You smell so good, darling. Mind if I have a taste? I'm full of Vane's but go ahead. Oh, fucking Christ. Could this be my life from now on? Just lazing on the beach and fucking any one of them whenever I want? Letting Bash cook me food while Cass tells me a story, and Vane broods beside me while Peter Pan smokes a cigarette and looks sexier than any man has a right to? Yep, those are their personalities in this book. Cooks, tells stories, broods, and smokes. Correct. Chapter 31, Peter Pan, nothing happens. Chapter 32, Cass. They go into Hook's territory, and Darling tells Cass that she can feel him brooding. I'm not brooding, I say while I brood. My god. Chapter 33, Pan. They get to Hook's house, and Pan tells him that he knows that he has the shadow because he can, like, sense it or whatever. And then everyone has a gun, and Tilly shows up and she grabs Darling. Chapter 34, Pan. Why is this a new chapter? It picks up exactly where the last one left off from the same POV, and the last one is like 4 pages. Do you have a chapter quota you have to meet? Tilly puts the twins in an illusion, and then she is trying to get into Darling's mind, But Hook is like, wait, I need to know how to claim the shadow. Don't kill Peter Pan yet. And then he's like, wait, my sister. Pan, just to fuck with him, is like, she's in a metal box at the bottom of the ocean. No, she's not. Chapter 35, Peter Pan. Hook comes at me. Vane flies towards Darling and Tilly. The Dark One has always been fast, but he's faster when the Darling is in danger. And then Pan pulls out a clock, and Hook just has a panic attack. Pan finds the chest that his shadow is in and opens it. Here fucking goes. Don't you dare run away from me again. Maybe the shadow ran away from you because you talk to it how you talk to women. Chapter 36, Winnie. Vane flies Darling back to the treehouse and tells her to get into the tomb until they come to let her out, and then he flies back to help the boys with the pirates and the fairies. Sherry shows up and Darling tries to get her to go into the tomb with her, but Sherry says, I heard a noise in my room and I think it's one of the parakeets. Can you help me get it out? All right, real quick, and then we have to go down to Pan's tomb. The parakeet is not that important. It will be the. Oh my god. Chapter 37, Peter Pan. He gets his shadow back. That's it. Chapter 38, Bash. Nothing happens. Everyone sees Pan got his shadow back and then they run away. Chapter 39, Sherry. I turn the knob and crack the door open. Winnie steps over the threshold. I shove her all the way in. There's a loud snarl and the sound of breaking glass, then silence. Honestly, hell yeah. Go, Sherry. Didn't think you had it in ya. I turn the knob and push the door in. It creaks on its hinges, and I spot Winnie in the middle of my room, standing among the wreckage of all of my favorite things. Her back is to me. Winnie? She says nothing. I lick my lips and inhale deeply. Winnie? She slowly turns to me, and when she finally faces me and lifts her chin, her eyes are the darkest black. Dun dun dun. That's the end. Just so bad. So bad. The premise had some potential, but all of the characters are the same person. All of the boys are just horny and broody and dumb, and both of the girls in these books are just horny and ditzy and dumb. The plot, while already borderline non existent, does not make sense. And you can't think about it for more than a second or it falls apart. The smut came first, the plot came second, which is fine. You are allowed to do that. You are allowed to enjoy that. But the smut was not good. Need I remind you? What the fuck was that? The Lost Boys are lucky they can't age or get sick, or every single one of them would have gotten lung cancer by now. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I did want to try to make a longer video than I have made before, so let me know if you prefer longer videos or shorter videos. Let me know what you thought of these books and if you've read them. And if you have a book you want me to read, I have made a Google form, which will be linked in the description below. You can submit any book, and you can also submit your username if you want me to thank you in the video if I end up thanking one. If it is wanted, I will make a video on the last 2 books in this series. Oh my god, I really don't want to commit to that, but I'll do it. Thank you so much for suffering with me. I'll see you next week.